You stop watching trash videos and start learning about finance. Think about the last 30 minutes you spent on your phone. What were you watching? Be honest, not with me, with yourself. Was it something that made you smarter? Something that moved your life forward? Something that an hour from now you will still be thinking about? Or was it just content, one video after another? Funny, meaningless, forgotten before it even finished. And here is the part that should bother you. That was not an accident. Every second of that experience was engineered, designed by some of the most sophisticated algorithms on the planet, powered by billions of dollars in research, built with one single purpose: to keep you there. Not to inform you, not to grow you, not to help you build anything. Just to keep your eyes on the screen for one more second, and then one more, and then another. And while you were watching, someone else was learning. Someone the same age as you, with the same phone, the same apps, the same 24 hours. But they made a different choice. And today, I want to show you exactly what happens to your life when you make that choice too. Section 1. What you are actually losing. Let me ask you something that might be uncomfortable. How many hours a day do you spend on short-form video content? Studies in the US show the average person spends between 2 and 4 hours a day on entertainment-based social media. Mostly passive, mostly forgettable. Let us use the conservative number, 2 hours a day. That is 14 hours a week. That is 60 hours a month. That is 730 hours a year. 730 hours. Do you understand what 730 hours is? That is enough time to become conversationally fluent in a new language. That is enough time to read over 80 books. That is enough time to go from zero financial knowledge to understanding investing, taxes, compound interest, debt management, credit scores, and retirement planning completely. 730 hours. And most of us spend it watching content we cannot even remember the next morning. I am not here to make you feel guilty. Guilt does nothing. I am here to show you what is possible when that same time gets redirected. Not all of it, not even most of it. Just 1 hour a day. 1 hour where instead of opening the algorithm, you open something that teaches you how money actually works. What happens to your life over the next 5 years if you do that? Let me show you. Picture this. You are scrolling, the usual loop, video after video. Your brain is technically awake, but nothing is registering. You have been doing this for 40 minutes and you cannot name a single thing you watched. And then something small happens. Maybe it is a video that gets past your guard. Maybe it is a comment that says something real. Maybe someone you respect mentions a book or a concept, and something in you shifts, just slightly. And for the first time in a long time, you are curious. Not about drama, not about someone else's life, about yours. You type something into the search bar that you have never typed before. How does compound interest work? And you watch a 5-minute video that explains it simply, and something clicks. Not dramatically, not in a way you can explain to someone else yet, but inside, something connects that was not connected before. You think about your own savings account, the one that has been sitting there doing almost nothing. You think about the money you spent last month, the subscriptions, the impulse purchases, the nights out where you spent more than you planned. And you think, what if that money had been working instead of spending? That is the moment. That is the crack in the wall. And if you let it open instead of closing it back up, everything that comes after is different. Here's what most people do not realize about financial education. It compounds just like money does. The first thing you learn feels small: how interest works, what a budget actually is, why your credit score matters. None of it feels life-changing on its own. But then you learn the second thing, and the third, and something strange starts happening. The things you already know start connecting to the new things you are learning. And suddenly you are not just collecting information, you are building a framework, a way of thinking about money that you carry everywhere. You walk into a store, and instead of buying impulsively,
You pause for 3 seconds and ask, is this an asset or a liability? You look at your paycheck, and instead of wondering where it went, you actually know because you built a system. You have a conversation about a job offer, and instead of just looking at the salary, you are thinking about equity, benefits, retirement matching, growth trajectory. This is what financial literacy does to your brain. It does not just teach you facts, it changes how you process the world. And here is the timeline. Month 1, you learn the basics: budgeting, emergency funds, how interest works, what debt actually costs you. By the end of month 1, you have more practical financial knowledge than most adults in America. That is not an exaggeration. Financial literacy rates in the US are genuinely low. Most people are operating with incomplete or incorrect mental models about money. Month 3, you understand investing, index funds, diversification, the difference between saving and investing, why time in the market beats timing the market. You open a brokerage account. You make your first investment. It does not matter how small. The act of starting is everything. Month 6, you have a system. Money comes in, gets allocated automatically. Bills are paid, savings are happening, investments are growing. You have stopped feeling anxious every time your bank account crosses a certain number because you know where everything is and why. Year 1, you look back at who you were 12 months ago, and you do not recognize that version of yourself, not because you are rich, you might not be it, but because you are no longer lost. You have a plan, you understand the plan, you trust the plan. And the person who spent those same 12 months watching content they cannot remember, they are exactly where they were, just 12 months older. Section 4, the real cost of financial ignorance. I want to be direct with you for a moment, not in a way that is meant to scare you, in a way that is meant to wake you up, because the cost of not learning this is not abstract. It shows up in your life in very specific, very painful ways. It shows up when you are 35 and you realize you have never invested a single dollar and you are starting from zero, while your peers who started at 25 already have a decade of compounding behind them. It shows up in the high interest debt you carry, because nobody taught you that a 24% APR credit card is one of the most expensive financial products in existence. It shows up when you get a raise and somehow still feel broke the next month because lifestyle inflation consumed everything before you even noticed. It shows up in the retirement account you never opened because it felt complicated, and 10 years pass, and then 20, and suddenly you are doing math that does not work in your favor. None of these are character flaws. None of these make you a bad person. They are information gaps, and information gaps can be closed, but they cannot close themselves. The algorithm will never teach you this. It does not benefit from you understanding compound interest. It does not benefit from you having a budget. It does not benefit from you being financially free. It benefits from you staying distracted.
And you are choosing something different right now. I want to make this concrete for you because it is not about becoming a finance expert. It is about small daily decisions that compound over time. You wake up. Instead of the first 20 minutes going to social media, you spend 10 minutes reading one article about personal finance or listening to one short podcast episode about money. You are not studying. You are just feeding your brain a different input first thing in the morning. At lunch, instead of scrolling, you spend 5 minutes reviewing your weekly spending tracker. You are not judging yourself, just looking, just knowing. Because what you measure, you understand, and what you understand, you can improve. One evening a week, instead of 2 episodes of something you will forget, you watch one 20-minute video that teaches you something real: how to negotiate a salary, how tax brackets actually work, how to read a brokerage statement. None of this is painful. None of this requires a finance degree. But 6 months from now, the person who did this consistently knows things that the average American adult does not. And that knowledge is not just abstract, it is practical, it is applied. It shows up in your bank account, in your credit score, in your investment portfolio, in the conversations you have about money without anxiety, in the way you sleep at night. Because financial stress is one of the most common and most destructive forms of stress in American life, and most of it comes not from a lack of income, but from a lack of understanding. You cannot manage what you do not understand. But once you understand it, the stress does not just decrease,
For many people, it almost disappears entirely. I want to leave you with something simple. There are two versions of you that exist right now. Version 1 continues the same loop, opens the same apps, watches the same content, wakes up 5 years from now in roughly the same financial situation, maybe slightly worse, definitely more frustrated. Version 2 makes a small shift, not a dramatic one, not a lifestyle overhaul, just 1 hour a day redirected toward learning how money works. Version 2, 5 years from now, has a paid off emergency fund, a growing investment portfolio, no high interest debt, a clear retirement plan, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you understand your own financial life. Both of those people start from the same place. Right here, right now, with the phone in their hand. The only difference is what they choose to do with the next hour. And here's what I want to say to you directly. You already made a different choice today. You watched this instead of the other thing. That matters. That counts. The question now is what you do with that momentum. So I have one ask. Pick one thing, not 5, not a whole new routine, just one. Maybe it is opening a budgeting app tonight. Maybe it is watching one video about index funds this week. Maybe it is checking your credit score for the first time. Maybe it is just reading one article about compound interest before you go to sleep. One thing. And then come back, because this channel exists for exactly this. Every week, one piece of financial knowledge, made simple, made real, made useful for people who are done drifting and ready to build something. Drop a comment right now. Tell me what the one thing is that you are going to do this week. Write it down, make it real. And if this video hit something in you, if you felt that shift, share it with one person who needs it. Because financial literacy is not just a personal upgrade, it's something you can pass on. See you next week.